All right, what's up, Facebook and Mortgage Coach YouTube channel? I have a Mortgage Coach interview first. This is the first time I've interviewed Katie. She's a second-year mortgage professional out of Fargo. Is it North Dakota? Fargo,
Yeah.
North Dakota?
Yep.
Fargo, North Dakota. She was referred to me by Shayla Gifford. Shayla really thinks highly of you and enjoys having you as part of the coaching program. So congrats on that. And then she's having a real breakthrough year. So despite the fact that the industry is not like doubled in volume, she's doing averaging 9 loans a month and on track to close over 20 million this year. And I think it's just great seeing mortgage professionals in their 20s make it in this industry. So Katie, welcome to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit about your story of how you've gone from, I think you said you're about 2.5 years in, and at that volume in this market, I mean, you're on your way to doing really big things in the industry. So just share with everyone a little bit about your model, a little bit about your story, and then we'll unpack some of the best practices.
Yeah, so like I was telling Dave, I got started in mortgage a little over 3 years ago in a banking model, and then eventually had some mentors in my life speak out about, hey, like kind of want to break free from that and get a little bit more individualized experience. So at that point, I went and I became a loan officer assistant just so I could see a bigger volume of files. I think that's really difficult when you're starting out, and you maybe get one deal and it consumes your life for 3 months, and then the next deal is completely different. So I ventured out, went on the broker side, was a full-time loan officer assistant, covered my main loan officer's maternity leave, and then have been full-time broker now for about a year and a half.
So a year and a half. So it's not even 2.5 years. You've been full-time loan
Yeah, I've
officer for a
been,
year and a half.
yeah, I stopped being a loan officer assistant in the spring of 23. So
So that's
yeah,
even better. You're
yeah.
coming up even faster. So now I know, when Shayla introduced me to you, she had really spoken to just your mindset, the confidence you've gained, and sounded like some of that had to do with being a mortgage coach. So by the way, everyone, she's a black belt. I think she's done 600 mortgage coach total cost analysis. Could you just speak to your growth from a confidence standpoint, from a mindset standpoint? Think of where you started and think of where you're at right now. And what was it that helped you get that confidence and that mindset that you have today?
Yeah, first of all, I would say a huge part of my confidence came from speaking to other realtors and really understanding how little so many mortgage lenders do. And a big credit to Shayla for this as well, but I just started to think like the main reason what takes a lead, someone who is so excited to buy, or is showing interest in buying, what is the difference between those that close 90 days from then or fall off the face of the earth and you never hear again? And I would venture to say that 90% of that is intimidation of the financing. So if you have someone that is, maybe they're Gen Z, maybe they don't work anywhere near finances, they have no idea what to do, they're in over their head, they go into a bank, they get a loan estimate that they can't read, someone didn't take the time to understand, that people didn't follow up with, hey, what are different properties going to look like? They see the initial estimate and then they're just off to the races by themselves. They feel alone. It's easy for them to get overwhelmed and say, hey, never mind, I'm out. And then we never hear from them again. So what I've really incorporated Mortgage Coach is saying, hey, this is, I will do a buyer's consult with someone brand new and I will say, hey, this is what you said you want. Column one, this is what you typed in. Maybe they typed in that they have a $25,000 down payment. Well, for example, most of the time with my first-time home buyers, that means they have $25,000 total. They just don't know to account for closing costs, maybe a buyer's commission at this point. They don't know to account for all of that. So then maybe I'll take them into the second column and I'll say, this is the minimum down. Maybe you wanted to save some of that money. Or actually the second one I would do, this is if they put $25,000 down payment in the first one, I'll do the second one and I'll say, this would be $25,000 total. Maybe you're doing a $17,000 down payment. because you need that $8,000 for closing costs. And then I'll show them like, hey, actually, you're a first-time home buyer, you can get in for 3% down. What would that look like payment different? Without fail, almost every single person is shocked that the $10,000 that they have been grinding and saving for 4 years is only going to amount to like $50 on their payment. So showing that up front, like, this is what you told me you want, that's great. I just want you to see that this is what you told me. This is maybe what you meant, just me being a professional and reading between the lines. And here's maybe a couple other options for you to consider. And then a lot of these people, like, I think there's a tendency maybe with some old dogs in our industry to think that you're buying a $300,000 house, $500 here and there, $50 here and there doesn't matter. It does in this economy, in this age of up and coming first time home buyers. So I tell people, like, I want to give you specific quotes. I personally would not feel comfortable for the majority of my life putting in an offer on a home that I had not seen updated numbers for. So I want to give that to you as we go. I have some people that, maybe they're still trying to decide between, I had one couple that every single property they looked at, they wanted to see 3%, 5%, and 7% down. And we did that. It's super easy with MortgageCoach. So yeah, I would say that's been kind of the biggest shift in how I have been able to convert people at a level that maybe my referring partner's previous lender hasn't been able to.
So I just got like a couple takeaways. So first of all, guys, did you hear that? 3%, 5%, 7%. How many loan officers are even getting that variable? Usually it's like 5%, 10%, 20%. So I love that you're super personalizing different options for consumers. And I think of when I think of mindset, and first of all, everybody I interview is a mortgage coach, so they all have the advisor's mindset. Whereas I think of the loan officer's mindset, it's more transactional. It's here's your rate, here's your payment, here's your cash to close. It's not, they don't want to give options because it's not easy to give options if you don't have MortgageCoach. When did you have your kind of go from the transactional mindset to the advisor's mindset? Do you remember because you've only been doing this now for a year and a half. Do you remember the month, the day, the week where you're like, whoa, I never thought of it that way? And then when you think of what you do, what kind of feedback do you get from consumers around that?
Yeah, I would say that I always had the mindset, but what I didn't realize that was differentiating me. When I started in mortgage, I didn't own a home. I hadn't gone through the process. My background was retail banking, and my background before that was retail sales. I was a manager for Old Navy. I was a manager for Bath and Body Works. So I've always been super on the customer service side of things. And yeah, having not bought a home of my own, having not grown up with a ton of money, having all of those things just really always made me sensitive to that. And it wasn't, again, until I started hearing stories from people. I would go to my BNI networking group and I would, give a 5-minute presentation on something happening. And it was basic stuff. It was pulling up MortgageCoach. It was explaining how earnest money works. Like, it was extremely basic stuff. And I would have people tell in their early 30s say, I've bought 2 homes and I learned more from you than I did when I bought my home. So I think it's silly to say, but like, my confidence came from learning that not everyone is like me. I think when you have your unique abilities, it's easy to go out into the world and think that because it comes easy to you. And I think learning that other people are not doing that is what gave me the confidence to really speak more to those things and having client empathy. I mean, I made like my Katie Poyzer mortgage promises back in May after I got home from Slay with Shay. And top of there was radical client empathy. Like, I don't want to hear from anyone on my team that our client's an idiot because they took out a 401k loan 2 days before closing. Yeah, that's frustrating, but they're scared because they didn't know their cash to close 2 days beforehand and they freaked out. So that's a learning experience for us, like things like that. That is just an absolute must if we're going to work together. And I want the same from my agents. I don't want to work with the agents that are just out here hungry for investors and get the transaction closed. I want to work with people who have empathy that this is a huge deal. And when it is your home, it is so all encompassing, and we need to be super empathizing with that and serve them well.
Did you just say radical empathy, or do you have another word in there? Radical.
That's what I used. Yeah, that's what I have on my
Is
board.
is that a Shayla term, or is that your term?
I mean, I'm sure I've heard it somewhere, but that's what came to mind when I was trying to like write.
Well, by the way, I love the term.
Yeah.
By the way, what was your biggest takeaway from the Slay with Shay event, and just from, the coaching experience you're having with Shayla so far? What have been some of the biggest values for you?
I would say from a mortgage advisor standpoint is really connecting the dots for agents. Agents don't care that I have a unique program. I mean, yeah, they care if it gets the deal done when someone else isn't going to. But I'll also say this. For my job, I have to solicit. Yep, I have some clients that come direct to me, but I'm mainly talking to agents and financial advisors. That is a lot easier than what an agent is doing. And they're sitting at open houses and they're trying to sell themselves on the spot, and they're maybe calling cold leads, and they're doing all these things. The last thing that agent wants to do is to hand that lead over to an apathetic loan officer who is going to be frustrated that their credit's not good. So I think communicating to agents like, hey, I am not going to let your client slide. If I'm not the best for them, if I know that I don't have a program for them, I'm going to send it to a bank in town that I trust and someone that I know. I'm not going to do wrong by your clients because I am 28 years old. I want to be doing this when I'm 48 and 58. I'm not going to ruin my reputation in the first 2 years. And so from a mortgage standpoint, I would say that. Second of all, just if anyone's listening and considering going to Slay with Shay, it was really good for my growing. Like, where do we go from here? Like you said, we're averaging anywhere from like 7 to 12 loans a month. It's getting a little bit chaotic. How do we scale that? So that's a bigger conversation and not completely lose ourselves. I think that's something that Shayla embodies so well, is how to keep your life together and have a both busy and fulfilling life while not
So
letting your client slide.
love that. So guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link down below to ShaylaGifford.com. Check it out. I've interviewed Shayla lots of times. She's a huge gift to the mortgage industry. Be sure to check that out. So let's talk about, first of all, what percentage of your business is first time home buyers versus move up? Like, what's your niche?
Yeah, I would say I'm about 70% first time home buyer right now.
Okay. And
Mhm.
what is your advice to first time home buyers? You had mentioned when we were having our prep call that you're familiar with First Home IQ, and you've used some of the stats and some of the resources from that. But you know, share, how do you help first time home buyers, and what's your unique value proposition to first time home buyers?
I would tell first time home buyers that mortgage is extremely complicated and it's extremely regulated, but you should not feel stupid when you're getting a mortgage. And if your loan officer isn't explaining things in a way that you understand them, it's a reflection of them and not of you. I hear a lot of people that maybe they come to me and they're like, well, we just don't like, I just talked to a girl last week and she's like, well, my husband got pre-approved at this place, but I'm just like still kind of confused. So I asked our agent if they had a recommendation and she recommended you. And I was like, yeah, like you need someone to explain to you what an escrow account is, don't you? And she's like, yes, like I don't get it. And again, I think my age plays a part in that. When I first started, I did not understand what an escrow account was. I had my director of mortgage, I had my direct supervisor, and I had another kick butt loan officer in my office. And neither one of them could explain it to me in a way that I understood. Now, I am college educated, pretty darn intelligent, but it was just brand new to me. And I had to look up 3 YouTube videos before it finally clicked as to like what an escrow account was. Yet we get a client in our office and we're just trigger word after trigger word after trigger word, and they don't understand what it is, and they're too afraid to say, hey, like I used to start my first time home buyer consults by saying, hey, like on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you feel like your knowledge is about the mortgage process? Because I didn't want to speak down to someone if they did know. Literally 100% of people would give me an answer that was 5 or under, and they would say it like embarrassed and apologetically. They'd be like, yeah, we don't really know. And I would be like, it's okay, no one knows. So now I just throw that out, because even if they say they know, they probably don't. And my retention rate, like, I was looking at my summer, my leads are way down this summer. And I mean, compared to what? I've only been in it a year and a half, but compared to like where I thought they would be, my winter leads were pretty high. My summer's been a little bit lower, but our pipeline doesn't show it because our conversion is that high. So yeah, sorry, that was a very long-winded way to say, I would say that you should not feel stupid, and you should be able to understand the biggest financial investment of your life.
Love that. And how does Mortgage Coach help you? How are you using Mortgage Coach as part of your process, and what feedback are you getting from clients?
Yeah, so like I had said, I will if someone, typically they're filling out an application and then we're doing a consult, I will go through my first time homebuyer consult, and then I immediately pull up Mortgage Coach. I actually pull up the mortgage lender side of things first, just because I love those bars. I think that's a super helpful way to see your payment right off the top. I will start with, maybe they typed in that they want 30, that they have $30,000 to put down. Most people aren't figuring in closing costs. They're just saying they have $30,000. So I will show them, hey, this is what this would look like with $30,000 down. As you can see, your cash close is actually around 37,000, but this is what you said you want. This is maybe what I'm guessing you think or this is maybe what I am interpreting that you actually meant, which is that you have $30,000 total. So let's look at like a $22,000 down payment with room for closing costs. Then I'll say, hey, as a first-time home buyer, let me tell you, you are going to spend a lot of money those first few months that you move in. Moving's expensive, life is expensive, groceries are expensive, paint is expensive, everything is expensive. You actually can put the minimum down, keep an extra 10 grand in your savings account, and your payment is only going to go up 40 bucks a month. That just might be something for you to consider. And then in North Dakota, we have a really good first-time homebuyer assistance program where they can either choose a lower down payment or to take down payment assistance. So that's super helpful to show them that as well. Like, hey, you could take assistance. A lot of them need to take assistance, and what that would look like. But then if you chose not to take assistance, this is how it affects your payment and things like that. And then I send that to them afterwards. So they leave with an email with their pre-approval letter and a link to what we just looked at. And then a lot of times they'll have, like, they may have been searching the MLS the night before, and they're like, hey, actually, like, we're looking at this house Saturday. Could you like plug this into it real quick? And I'll plug that in. And then I leave saying, hey, like, if there are any homes that you're looking at that you want updated numbers on, taxes, property taxes around here, we have special assessments on top of our property taxes. Depending on what part Fargo-Moorhead you are buying, your taxes can fluctuate anywhere from $200 to $300 a month. So I want you to send me addresses where I will narrow in and specify. And then also what's helpful is if there's something I need to explain, and using the video function, it's so helpful to have a video of me, because if you're talking to a client who, even if you're doing a bang up job explaining everything, they probably can't reiterate what you said. Even if they understand it as you're talking, they probably don't have the ability to say it again to their spouse later that night. Where the video function, I have had couples tell me that, like, oh yeah, I watched it, my husband's watching it tonight, or vice versa. Or they'll be like, oh, I need to go back and rewatch what you said, or oh, we actually had a question, but then when you didn't answer right away, we went back and we watched it and we figured it out, so now we're good.
Love that. So you use that video feature pretty frequently.
Yeah.
What would your advice to any loan officers watching this to get that advisor mindset, to go from wherever they're at to get to where you're at? I mean, doing the kind of volume you're doing, and sounds like it's a year and a half as a full-time loan officer. I mean, it's pretty special. Now I know why Shayla had referred me to you and thought that, hey, let's get Katie on stage. I think you're a real inspiration. But what advice do you have to whether it's new loan officers in the business or managers who are mentoring new loan officers, would love for them to hear that from you.
Yeah, I would just really try to think about an experience that you've had, and maybe you've always been fiscally responsible, you've always had money, maybe you know that, but I would really try to tap into an experience that has made you feel insecure, nervous, or just downright dumb, and really put that put yourself in in your shoes. I mean, it is very easy to get frustrated in our industry and to just want to speed through things, but slowing down at the beginning and making sure that they comprehend it, because it's one of those things where you get one shot. I mean, sometimes you get one shot with a realtor. They're sending you one lead. And if that lead gets spooked, that can be the end of that. And that's not just the end of that lead, that might be the end of your realtor relationship. So I would just say, it feels like I am wasting a lot of time, or, oh, I'm just sucked into like this one thing. If you give someone a solid 1 to 2 hours, let's say 1 hour to pre-approve them, that would be a super in-depth pre-approval, and an hour to go through all of this with them. If you give them that up front, typically the rest of the transaction is pretty easy, and I don't get shopped a ton once I'm able to get them in front of Mortgage Coach and in front of my first time homebuyer presentation.
How long did it take you before Mortgage Coach was pretty easy? I mean, you've done it 600 plus times now, so obviously you got it down, but how was the learning curve for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the more people you're quoting, the better it is. I would definitely say probably only a month or two. I definitely think there's more things for me to learn constantly. I mean, like you were saying, the rent versus own. Most of the people that I am in front of, they're not like they're ready,
Yeah, they
But
want to
I
buy. They're very
yeah,
motivated
so
to
I
buy a
don't even
home.
really need to show them that, but I would love to start implementing that for like realtor meetings, just to hopefully get that sooner. And it was actually really fun. I CC'd an agent. That's what I like too, is there's not a ton of personal information on the Mortgage Coach, so you can loop in your agent, which is so helpful, because if I had money or if I had a dollar for every time the agent calls me and said, oh, they had a question about this, and I'm like, okay, don't know why they didn't call me, but sounds good. I had an agent who posted a screenshot of Mortgage Coach. She kind of cropped it and she did a little question on her story of like, whose rent is more than this, blah, 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 blah. And I went back, and it was something I had quoted one of her clients, and she was even using this one snippet of it to market on her stories. And I thought that was cool. So I look forward to learning more into that. And then I just did my first refi one, actually using the refinance feature on there, which was a little bit of a learning curve, but 15 minutes, I figured it out. So I love it.
Cool. Well, I want to summarize a few things. I have a really important question because the headline is how is second year loan officer Katie closing 9 loans a month? And I can tell you guys right now, radical empathy. And she did have that, like coming from retail and her background, she had a caring heart. She became an advisor. So she immediately started using Mortgage Coach and doing more than just transaction. So that's part of how she's been so successful. What about realtors? Obviously you said 70% first time home buyers. So guys, that's another thing. She's focusing on first time home buyers. But realtors, I'm assuming, is most of your business coming from realtors?
Yes. Yep. I'm about 75% realtor, 10 to 15% financial advisor, and then 10% sphere. Um, I think that equals 100. Yeah. And then,
How,
yeah.
how
So
did you get, all these realtors to trust you in your first year and a half in business? Like what's your value prop to real estate agents?
I oftentimes will pull up Mortgage Coach, honestly. But I really am just speaking to the fact I'm getting copies. I'm to the point now where I'm trying to get introductions through someone I already know, which is super helpful, obviously, and just gaining trust that way. And then getting to the root of like, hey, I don't know who your lender is right now. I don't really care, but are you sending people to them that fall through the cracks? Are you only closing conventional loans with them? Because that might be a sign that these people that they're denying are not actual denials. They're just more difficult files than they want to deal with. How
So you kind of,
often?
so kind of like, I'll be your second choice as a lender. That's part of your value prop to these realtors is give,
Yeah, give me a shot. Let me see if I can make your clients more comfortable with fine. I don't think it does not matter how high end your clientele is right now. Everyone is concerned about the financial aspect just because interest rates are such a hot topic. So if I can speak more to that, and I always tell people, I don't, not necessarily realtors, but I tell people this too. If something happened tomorrow and I could not be a mortgage lender, I would not be a realtor. The house is cool, but that's whatever. I would be a financial advisor, honestly. And I think that's helpful to know. Like, did your lender just get into it because they saw dollar signs and they couldn't make it as a realtor? Like, what is their heart behind it and their passion behind it? And while that might not necessarily mean anything to an agent, it means a lot to the clients, which in turn helps your conversion.
Yeah. So your real value prop is give me a shot. I care more. You're showing Mortgage Coach, so I think they're getting that you care. They're seeing that you're delivering a greater level of advice. And then last question with the NAR settlement, how is that shaken out in Fargo, North Dakota? Like how are things going with the NAR settlement? And is there anything you're doing to help agents in this new reality?
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's probably a little too early to tell, but I did get a purchase agreement yesterday that was 50-50 seller, 50% buyer paid. Luckily it was a pretty easy one to make that happen with. I have been asking agents, how would you prefer me to approach that? Because let me help you. That's get something else too that Shayla always preaches is it's really awkward for an agent to be driving down the road saying like, do you know how lucky you are to have me? Like, there's 1,000 realtors in this town. You're really lucky that you're with me. But I can speak to that and I can say, oh my gosh, I know 200 realtors in Fargo and there's about 10 to 15 of them that I would trust with my own transaction. Like, and you're with one of them. So that is so awesome. These are a couple ways that we may need to structure it. I mean, I'm used to having these conversations anyway, just because what if they don't get seller credit? What if they do get seller credit? What if we use down payment assistance? We can really utilize a down payment assistance program. Maybe they have enough money for down payment and closing costs, but not enough for realtor commission. But if we get into a tough spot and we absolutely have to cover realtor commission, now we can use the funds that we're going to be their down payment, 3%, pay the buyer. And now we're using North Dakota's down payment assistance program. It's adding $20 a month to their monthly payment. So definitely sometimes, Dave, I feel like I could use 8 different columns on Mortgage Coach. But I'm glad it's 4 because it keeps me focused. And not too many options. But yeah, definitely I think it's gonna yeah, it's hard to see how it's gonna shake out, but definitely more helpful than ever to have a tool like Mortgage Coach.
Cool. And guys, I want to show something on my screen because I want to make sure everybody checks this out. Kelly Zitlow actually posted this yesterday. She did a video about how she is showing NAR settlement options. And so, oops, I think I went to the next video. But check this out. And she actually walked through a total cost analysis. So on this video, this is the actual TCA that she showed, where it's like, hey, what if the seller pays the realtor's commission? What if we have to increase the purchase price? What if we have to adjust the down payment? And then, of course, what if it's just paid at closing and you have to bring in more cash to close? So one, it's a 7-minute video. It's on YouTube. I highly recommend everyone watch this. We'll put a link to this down below. If you're watching the show notes, there'll be a link to ShaylaGifford.com. She's an incredible coach. She's doing great events. Make sure you check it out. And then, of course, we'll put a link to this Kelly Zitlow. Also, you had mentioned that you've been using some of the content for First Home IQ. I do recommend everybody takes the First Home IQ quiz. And I recommend that you forward that to your first-time home buyers as just a homeowner readiness. If they take that little 20-question quiz, it's free. And you'll have a sense, like, how they said, oh, I'm a level 5, oh, I'm a level 6. How would you like to know what their score is? You will actually know, oh, you're a 57, which, by the way, the average Gen Z, I think is it 57%? Usually people in the mortgage industry or real estate industry are in the 80s, and a lot of loan officers are getting, 100%. Shayla Gifford got 100%. Have you taken that quiz, by the way?
Yeah, I did. I got 100.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, thank God.
yeah, right. But have you considered giving that to your clients, your prospects?
No, that's a really good idea though.
Yeah, yeah. And if you guys become an ambassador, you go to First Home IQ, take the quiz for free. And to become an ambassador, you actually get your own private, your own custom link so that when the customer fills it out, you're actually getting the data and you're getting their score. So check that out. All right, Katie, any closing thoughts for everyone? Anything you want to wrap it up with?
I don't think so. I actually, okay, I will say this too. I have had a couple, I mean, tons of first-time homebuyer success stories, but a lot of move-up success stories that have been so much more helpful because of Mortgage Coach as well. Showing debt payoff with equity and cash outflow changes. I've had a few people that have moved up from, $300,000 starter homes at 2% interest rate to 7% interest rates and $600,000 forever homes and are thrilled to do so. And it's because we've been able to show them in Mortgage Coach how restructuring can really get them what they want while also still respecting their finances. So I just also want to do a shout out for that. I know this has been a lot of first time home buyers, but I think that adding in those debt payoffs with equity is huge. So thank you so much for having me and for everything you do. And I love Mortgage Coach.
All right. So, hey, guys, closing thoughts. We have updated the 10X page. So trustengine.com/10X. There'll be a link down below. If you're not already a mortgage coach, there's a button to sign up. If you want to look at an enterprise partnership, go to the top, get a demo. But guys, we've updated it. So now there's NAR settlement strategies. So this is actually an interview with the #1 buyer agent in America, and then 2 awesome coaches. There's an optimize refi button. So you want to optimize refis and know how to do that with Mortgage Coach. We've got some great sales training videos. There's going to be a lot of open houses. You want to optimize open houses. We'll be adding other videos to this. You want to win with rate shoppers. And then we have a whole coach to coaches session. So if you are a producing manager or a leader and a manager and you want to train loan officers, these are the 2 best interviews over the past 6 months that I think really train people. And then, of course, we got Scriptopalooza. And if you scroll further down, you've got, by the way, have you ever been to any of our live training on Wednesday, Thursday, where we actually do group training?
Yeah. When I first started, with Mortgage Coach, I was doing those every week.
So guys, you heard that. If you're a manager, make sure your loan officers sign up every Wednesday. We have live training. Every Thursday, we have live training. And of course, Mondays is beginners training. And then did you use any of our videos, any of our training videos? If you scroll further down on this, we have actual training videos. Did you use these when you were learning?
No, I should have.
Well, you figured it out. We try to make it so easy that you can figure it out, but hopefully you got value from this interview. Katie, welcome to the community. I love having you as a leader here. Please be active in the Facebook group, and I look forward to, as you grow your career and do more and more, I look forward to another interview with you.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave.
All right. Have a good one. Take care,
You too.
everybody.
Bye.